Excellent. Good morning, Kahal Kadosh. Tishku leshanim rabot to everybody. Today, Wednesday, the 27th day of Elul, corresponding to the 16th day of September. Yes, Wednesday, the 27th of Elul, corresponding to the 16th day of September 2020. Today's class is being dedicated for the Refuah Shelema of Abraham ben Leah bat Sara, Rachel bat Esther, Nehamadina bat Batya, among all of the Cholim of Am Israel. Today's topic will be split between a brief message about today's class on Tomer Devora, and Be'ezat Hashem, we would like to review some of the basic halachot of Rosh Hashanah, using the Ben Ish Chai as a foundation for some of the beautiful messages connected to this upcoming Rosh Hashanah, Hava Aleinu Letova. So today's Tomer Devora, on the 8th chapter, talks about the importance of supporting Torah learning. And this is something that Baruch Hashem people try to do. That does not exempt, just by the way, the obligation of a person learning Torah, but besides that being done Be'ezat Hashem properly, but the importance of supporting Torah learning is essential as well. Not only because the zechut of Torah learning protects the person and shields the person, but always Am Israel needs to have a group of people in each city that they are devoted and learning Torah for the benefit of the Kahal, for the protection of the community, etc., and always encouraging those that devote themselves to Torah learning to continue as long as they can. And today, in our generation, this is very commonly seen all over the world. Today we call it the topic of kolelim, that synagogues, Baruch Hashem, including ours, have kolelim, which means a selected group of young rabbinical scholars that they sit down and they learn halakha, they learn Torah, they learn Talmudic law, and eventually many of them, or some of them, will become future leaders of Am Israel. And if we don't invest now, what's going to be with the future of our nation? Yes, we hope for Mashiach to come, and yes, Hashem will never abandon us, but we as individuals, we must make the effort. We need to become a partner with the Almighty in preserving the Torah learning and the well-being of every city, to the point that the Gemara tells us that a city that doesn't have 10 Kollel students is a question if you can live in that city. And the reason is because when there is constant learning of Torah, there is an extra aura of protection and well-being for the citizens of the town, etc. But parallel to that, it says here, Sof Haddavar, bottom line, says Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, whoever is able to honor those who learn Torah, regretfully, could be somebody out there that for them or for him to sitting down and learn Torah, God forbid, is not something that we do. So first of all, that kind of mindset, it's completely out of line. Actually, according to the Talmud, Torah is the priority and everything follows. Obviously, we also follow the ruling of the Talmud that a person goes to work and brings livelihood to the home, but irrelevant of that, learning Torah, it's like oxygen for our neshama. And that's the reason why the Talmud in Shabbat brings us one of the questions. Kabata itim la Torah? Did you set up specific times for Torah learning? But it goes even further. Ulahazikam bedibur, and reinforce them with words of encouragement. Begufo ubemamono, physically and spiritually. We have a kollel by our synagogue that many of you heard, the Ezra Franco kollel at the Safra Synagogue, and this is a kollel specifically created to train future rabbis of the community, whatever God will send them in the right time. Wonderful, wonderful rabbinical scholars that they learn their curriculum of Jewish law and testing and reviewing, etc., plus learning at this time via Zoom remotely with members of our kahal, wonderful young men. And there is always some miracle happens. For example, the other day, somebody came to me and he says, Rabbi, I'd like to give you an envelope and make sure to distribute it to the young rabbinical scholars of the kollel. Gift from Shamayim. I didn't ask for it. We pay them a salary. We give them something special for the holidays. But there are some people who understand the message of Rabbi Moshe Cordovero and they become partners. The other day somebody came and gifted shirts. Yesterday, ties, for example. And you know that Ties and I have a great relationship, and it wasn't me. It was someone else. He says, I want to honor the rabbinical students for them to have something special in honor of the holiday. The other day, somebody came to me and he says, Rabbi, this gift is for the ladies, for the wives of the rabbinical students. You have to understand, somebody who learns in a kollel, and I only speak from my personal experience, what I see in our community, I cannot judge whatever happens elsewhere, they live a very simple life. They have no extras, but they are happy. And their wives are happy as well. And the children are happy because they are happy with everything that God gives them. And there is always something special coming, especially in honor of the holidays. And it says as follows, Begufo ubemamono, physically and financially, uleorer leva beriot el Torah shithazeku bah, and also encourage others to support Torah learning. Why? Because when we support Torah learning, and that's why we are founders in our kollel, how much it costs to become a founder? Only 18,000, payable in a year, a bit more if necessary. If you want to do something more, let me know. I'm not fundraising, I'm only just creating an awareness. And guess what? We have several partners that enable us to keep the kollel going and to pay on time. And this way they are able to have undivided attention to their learning. Spending time with the family, devoting time to their learning, learning with Baalei Batim, with members of the congregation, and it's a win-win situation. And it says that this connects to the concept of Mahazikim Torah Velomdeha. That's why the Pasuk says, when we take out the Sefer Torah, Etz Haim Hi Lamahazikim Bah. The Torah becomes the source of life, the tree of life for those that hold the Torah. Betomcheha, and those who support the Torah financially, Meushar, they will experience great fortune in their life. Why? Because they are preserving the Torah. So now you became, like the Talmud calls it, and the Torah calls it actually, Issachar and Zebulun, the two sons of Yaakov Avinu, alav shalom, that they had a partnership. And the Pasuk says, Ismach Zebulun besetecha, be'Issachar be'ohalecha. Zebulun will rejoice upon his departure, and Issachar will be in the tent. So, but this pasuk really doesn't make sense. If you are traveling overseas to do a business transaction, you're not that happy when you leave. You are happy when you come back and you made a great deal and you got paid for it. That's when you become happy. You're not happy If you have an appointment with Walmart, for example, okay, of course you're happy, but when you're going to really be happy? After you like the deal with Walmart and there is an order coming your way. But yet the Torah tells us completely the opposite. Zebulun was happy upon his departure because he knew that he will be successful in the business. Why? Issachar be'ohalecha. Because he knew my partner, Issachar, it's learning Torah on our behalf. And when somebody is learning Torah on your behalf, you have a directly connection to the Torah and to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'd like to clarify that that doesn't mean that because a person may come and say, Rabbi, here takes XYZ money to sponsor the kollel for a week or for a month or for a year, that automatically the person can say, I'm off the hook. Has v'shalom. Kevi'ot eitim, establishing time to Torah learning, definitely is a requirement for each and every one of us. And continues Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, and it says, Mikol melamdai hiskalti. From all my teachers, I acquire wisdom. What does it mean? How many teachers did we have when we were in school? And each teacher develops a certain part of our knowledge. Even in our days, certain hachamim which are expert in specific fields, and there are other hachamim which are experts in different fields. Meaning to say that the Torah is not found in one address and one address only. The Torah has many branches. And it says that when a person sits down and learns Torah, Zoche al tiferet sheyashpia, it says now we bring the beauty of what we learned yesterday of Yaakov Avinu to bring a tremendous amount of abundance to the life of the person. And therefore it says, this is something that is connected in a way to the midah of Hod. Hod, if you remember, refers to the midah of Aharon HaKohen. And Hod, we learned back then in the Omer times, the concept of Hoda'ah. Hoda'ah means recognition, recognizing the miracles that the Almighty performs for us on a regular basis. And the fact that a person, Baruch Hashem, has the opportunity to learn Torah, and on top of that, God gave him the opportunity to be able to sponsor Torah, so that also brings a tremendous amount of gratitude. Best of both worlds. The best of both worlds. The physical and the spiritual as well. Continue. This is called the midah of Yesod. Yesod in English means the foundation. The foundation. Now, what is the foundation of the world? So there are many answers. One verse says, Olam Hesed Ibaneh. The world is built on kindness. That's beautiful. We have an institution, or a program, I should say, in Miami called Yesod HaOlam, the foundation of the world. And this is a special program that whenever someone calls for assistance, their assistant is to deliver freshly catered meals to the hospital for patients that will be spending Shabbat or holidays, and as well has family members that will be staying with the patient in the hospital. This is completely free. Just pick up the phone and they will deliver it, obviously between all the parameters of health and safety guidelines which are required today whenever a person goes and visits a hospital, etc. And each city has its own rules and regulation, and this is all over from Boca Raton to Miami, going through the 3 counties. So that's a beautiful concept of Yesod Ha'olam, Hesed, kindness. The Mishnah writes in Pirkei Avot, Al Shelosha Devarim Ha'olam Omed. There are 3 things which are essential in this world: Torah, Avodah, Gemilut Hasadim. Torah learning, prayer, and act of kindness. But today, in the next paragraph, and this will finish today, and then we have the final chapter, God willing, tomorrow. And I'm moving a bit quicker than usual because I want to cover and start getting ready for Rosh Hashanah, although we already started to get ready from Rosh Chodesh Elul, and some people even from Tu B'Av, but I want to touch on the halachic elements just to have the mindset and the understanding, and Be'ezat Hashem, we'll be sending a lot of information via email for those that are registered to our email list with the holiday guides, schedules, and different community announcements which are relevant for the holiday. But comes Rabbi Moshe Cordovero and it says, there is the personal degree of holiness. And the degree of holiness is divided into 2 parts: the physical foundation of holiness and the verbal foundation of holiness. The physical aspect of holiness is referring to family purity and the sanctity of the Berit Milah. That to the physical aspect. We discussed this topic in the past, but today this is not the main menu. But yet it says, Sarich leizaher. It says a person must be careful. Mehadibur hamevi lidei irhur, velo yedaber nevela. It says very simple. It says a person needs to be careful the way they speak, and make sure that the way the person speaks, God forbid, does not create I'm trying to get the angle. Okay, does not create a situation, God forbid, that the person may be involved in some type of inappropriate behavior physically. He says, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, needless to say, that the vocabulary of the person carries a huge amount of weight in the way our holiness develops. The cleaner the words, the cleaner the language, the holier the person becomes. And we discussed this maybe a week or so ago when we're talking about the mouth of the person. And he says, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, Al titen et picha lahati et besarecha. Don't allow your mouth to cause the flesh of the body to sin. What does it mean? The Berit Milah, the circumcision of the person. Interesting that the name of that part of the body, it's called Milah. But in Hebrew, the word that comes from a person's mouth are clean, are proper, are respectful, holiness. So that creates, says Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, like an invisible area of protection that a person, God forbid, does not defile themselves by inappropriate physical behavior. And it goes on and it says that how careful a person must be. And now he speaks to the men, especially to the men's department. And it says how careful a person must be with their behavior, their physical behavior, when it comes to this topic of personal holiness, Berit Milah, the grave sin of Zera Levatala, of God forbid a man becoming wasteful of his Zera, but also this is a message to the wonderful ladies as well, especially those that still the halacha applies, the concept of family purity. Family purity, it's one of the foundations of holiness in the life of a marriage, in a Jewish marriage. If there is no personal holiness or family purity between husband and wife, that is not good. Because at the end of the day, if the wife does not go to the mikveh, how can the husband be fulfilling the mitzvah with the wife? And that is the reason why this commandment, which today, Baruch Hashem, great is the merit of the holy Jewish women, that they go to the mikveh. Maintain well for everybody's peace of mind, including in our current situation. Every mikveh is taking extra level of protocols for the peace of mind of the wonderful ladies who use the mikveh nightly. And I know for our mikveh Ben Porat Yosef, every night, thank God people come to the mikveh. Do we have any idea how much blessing and how much protection and how much holiness and sanctity on the holiness and the sanctity of marriage. Our rabbis tell us that many times situations or unfortunate situations of Shalom Bayit develop because there is no sanctity in the marriage. And there is no sanctity, there is no godliness. And if there is no godliness, automatically Shalom leaves. And Mahloket, God forbid, takes over. And I'm sure that I'm talking to an audience that, Baruch Hashem, observes this fundamental mitzvah as part of the Jewish people. And if not, God forbid, let it be today's class a source of encouragement to reignite this beautiful mitzvah that, irrelevant of the adversity that the Jewish people encountered throughout life, this was a mitzvah that wherever we were, this mitzvah was fulfilled to the best of people's abilities. With that being said, today we are going to switch the topic and we are going to begin discussing Rosh Hashanah proper. Although we have been thinking of Rosh Hashanah and occasionally we may have thrown a couple of ideas about Rosh Hashanah, but today I will start warming up a bit about Rosh Hashanah. So we are able to, Be'ezat Hashem, to welcome the holiday. in a most beautiful and suitable manner. Now, since we are talking about the Ben Ish Hai mega introduction to the topic of shofar, I'm just going to go quickly some of the things that I may have said in one of the classes, but I must apologize to the Kahal Kadosh. Ben Porat Yosef, the amount of classes being given on a regular basis in English for our international audience. Today there is another one with our sister community in Mexico City, and Baruch Hashem, a lot of classes, different messages, different public, and the questions that come usually in many cases after the class, but yet we're trying to have a common message of how to welcome and celebrate Rosh Hashanah to the best of our abilities. And I'm sure that this year will be different. Will be different because this is the reality. There are individuals, men or women, that unfortunately may not be able to go to the synagogue due to age or health-related matters. But nevertheless, Hacham Ishak Yosef, the chief rabbi of Israel Shalita, as well as many other great rabbis, came out not long ago with protocols of how to fulfill the mitzvah of shofar to the best of our abilities. And he says very clearly, synagogues should try to accommodate the ladies to come if they are able to come. And we know that it's not so easy in many cases, especially due to social distancing requirements and limited space. But for sure, he says, synagogues need to organize extra minyanim for those that are not able to come due to health or age-restricted manner. So in our synagogue, Sunday, Be'ezat Hashem, we're going to be offering, besides the regular minyanims, we're going to be offering 2 shofar blowing, one on the outdoors and one indoors. And the people that will be coming to the indoors, and there are many people that will stepping out to the balconies and listen to the sound of the shofar. And I know that many of the person. The shofar awakens the person to do teshuvah. I tell you how was my last night schedule. I started 9:30 Miami time, which is 8:30 Mexico and South America, 3:30 in Israel. And they were Ben Porat Yosef, many people. At 1 hour of speaking, I said, nobody's leaving the Zoom channel. Do you want me to continue or stop? They told me, continue, Rabbi. I spoke for another half an hour, and then the questions. I said to myself, Ribono shel Olam, that it would have never happened if this doesn't happen. And it's a great zechut. So therefore, try to make your effort, if you can, to go and to listen to the shofar. Call your rabbi. Maybe there is something going around the community and people may not know. This is concerning the shofar. The Ben Ish Hai begins and tells us it is imperative that a person should not allow anger to become activated. And it says the Ben Ish Hai, the milevad homer isura kaas sheu kashe bekol zeman, despite the fact that anger it's a problem any day. Kol shiken beyom Rosh Hashanah eno siman tov la'adam. If God forbid anger becomes activated in the night of Rosh Hashanah, is not a good sign